Welcome back, everyone. I am the Depressed Dior, and this is Middara on Tabletop Simulator. Got some much-needed rest after that last fight. I definitely underestimated how long that fight takes. It definitely goes faster if you ignore the achievements and the loot, because obviously that's one less enemy you have to fight, a particularly difficult enemy, that being the Gatekeeper. Alana only has 400 HP, and even with the burrows and her eventually getting a second initiative card, keeping the worm alive can at least buy you some time where she's not just blasting everyone with magic. So it's a bit of a trade-off, because honestly the worm is kind of dangerous as well, but he only acts every so often, so it's kind of a trade-off. I don't know if it was a mistake I've made. So as always, I tend to get mixed up between groups and various in my personal playthrough sometimes. I'm not sure. I haven't really checked the recording of these, but there might have been a few times with Elifie where I was using a purple die for the casting die, and that's because in my group that I play with, the person that has the book has a purple casting die. I don't think it happened, but if it did, that was wrong. It should have been using Justice's casting die, which was a green die. I don't think it was a big deal anyway, because usually I'd never hit with Gore Shot anyway. But if that happened, I mean, it's not a big deal. Obviously, I continued progressing anyway, and it was against me anyway. So, anyway, let's continue onwards. We got a lot to do. We did the experience. We did the restore. Everything got cleaned up finally. At this point, I could change gear around. I'm just going to wait. Flag check. Does the party have the story flag Fallen Friend? I do not believe we do. No, we don't. All right, no. I'll repay you one day, page 288. All right. Nightingale held the worm's neck down with all her strength, pushing it into the broken stone floor. Normally, she would have had no hope against such a monster, but the worm was bleeding from 100 wounds and barely able to fight back. Sophia's sword came down next, and she felt the creature spasm one last time. Black ichor came boiling out of the stump beside her, steaming and frothing as it spattered on the ground. At last, the monster was still. Nightingale rose, making her way over to where Breeze had cornered a bruised and broken Alana. But please, Alana begged, her voice ragged and raspy. You couldn't kill one of your sisters. There was no compassion in Breeze's face. How dare you? She growled in rage. After what you've done. She reached out as vines sprouted from the ground in front of her. They moved like snakes, wrapping around Alana's neck and squeezing tightly. You killed your own clan. You corrupt the land. You are a parasite. You will plague our jungle no more. You'll kill no more. You'll be no more. Alana clawed at the vines around her neck, her fingers struggling in vain against the plant's grip. She croaked and gasped, but any words were lost. Nightingale didn't watch, but she could hear the girl thrashing in the dirt. A few seconds later, the struggling noises finally stopped. When she turned, Alana's dead eyes were staring blankly at the sky. Breeze walked to where Ursi was huddled against one of the walls, taking shelter from the battle. She rose with Breeze's help, and both turned to leave. They stopped in the ruined doorway as Breeze looked back and meeting Nightingale's eyes. Thank you, Breeze said. Without your help, Nightingale crossed the distance in a few quick strides, then embraced Breeze with an enthusiastic hug. She felt the nymph stiffen under her grip, and she looked surprised. What? Nightingale let her go, smiling brightly. Come on, Breeze. We did it. Your sister is safe, my friends are safe, the Anointed are safe, and Gehenna is a better place. Isn't that worth celebrating? The nymph shared a confused look. Nightingale watched, and very slowly Breeze shook her head. Our whole tribe was nearly wiped out, Breeze said, her eyes on the ground. Nightingale suddenly felt stupid. But it wasn't completely wiped out. Thanks to you, Breeze continued. Ursi and I made it, and I suppose that is worth celebrating. Breeze reached up and removed a wooden brooch she wore. It's not much, but please take this. Nightingale did, feeling the smooth surface of the wood. The nymph had somehow managed to mingle uncut gemstones into it, as though it had grown around them instead of being carved. Breeze nodded contently. Consider it a token of my debt. Someday, I'll find a way to repay you for your help. She turned and reached over to help Ursi again. They smiled at Nightingale gratefully before moving to leave. Good luck, Nightingale called, watching from the doorway as they made their way into the streets. The branches of nearby trees reached down to them and lifted them over the walls and out of the city. Reveal medium hidden card UM33 and gain the homemade brooch story relic. Alright. I'm lagging. There we go. UM33. Alright, so this thing's amazing. So this is a unique... So it says a relic, but it's actually a core. I think originally it might have been a relic, and then they changed it. Anyway, it's a unique core. 4 defense is essentially a rare tier core. It has a conviction upgrade of blue and provides haste. So this thing is absolutely amazing. Definitely one of the better items. As for who I would probably give it to, there's a lot of choices. I could free up a relic slot for Nightingale and have her have some other stuff for once. But yeah, she's got some options here. This thing's a good upgrade. All right. Gehenna Morning, 294. There might be some gory pages upcoming, so 294. As you can see, there was a game over in that. I think you just saw Nightingale's head explode. Alright, a Gehenna Morning. They encountered little resistance as they made their way across the city of Gehenna. If there was one positive, it seemed that battling Lana had frightened away the lesser monsters. With any luck, they would stay gone. Nightingale hadn't had proper sleep in well over 24 hours, and she was feeling it. Her head buzzed faintly with exhaustion. Her reactions were slow, and her limbs felt numb. As she walked, Zephyr called for her to join him in the center of the camp. She paused for a moment and considered ignoring him, but reluctantly went to see what he wanted. Someone had started a fire, and slightly burned biscuits sat in a neat row on a tray beside it. Nightingale scooped one into her hand and bit into it as she took a seat, hardly noticing the awful taste. Zephyr explained to the others what Nightingale already knew, telling the story of how they come to Gehenna and had been separated and killed off by its traps. Nightingale did her best to stop from nodding off, though Rook had to nudge her more than once. I should have been here, Justice said, her voice halfway to a sob. Their deaths are my fault. If I'd been back sooner... No. Zephyr briefly pulled her into an affectionate hug. It's my fault. I underestimated the danger. If you had come with us into Gehenna back then, you might have been killed. He hesitated, glancing between Nightingale and the rest of the group. Where are Gast and Laura? I don't know those names, Damocles said flatly. They went with me to Hyde, Justice explained. Zephyr, my book told me where to find a Pontifex piece. Hyde was only a few days away, so I figured you'd be in the library with the rest of the Anointed long enough for me to travel back there and back. Zephyr's interest was immediately piqued. A Pontifex piece? Justice, you made the right choice. Assembling that artifact is our priority above all else. What happened in Hyde? Justice brushed herself off before sitting by the fire. When we arrived, we weren't the only ones looking for it. The Grim Deacons were there already. I killed them, or I thought I did, Justice averted her gaze from Zephyr. Gast and Laura didn't make it. 2 more fallen comrades. Zephyr poked at the fire with a link of half-rotted wood, stirring sparks that rose into the air around them. Nightingale fell still, unsure of whether she should speak. It wasn't her place. You killed the Grim Deacons, at least. Justice winced. I thought I got them all, but one survived somehow. I think her name was Echo. Zephyr tensed. Justice didn't seem to notice. I thought I killed her too, but she showed up again. Justice turned, acknowledging Nightingale and her friends. I kind of caused a minor disaster in Hyde during the fight, and the authorities threw me in jail. I would still be stuck there if it wasn't for these guys. Even if I had gotten out, Echo would have killed me. Justice went on, explaining the rest of what had happened in Hyde. She recounted their confrontation in the mine and the way Echo had used a concentrated form of the Blight to turn Hendrix Patel into a twisted monster. I'm glad you made it, Zephyr said, barely listening. What of the Pontifex piece? Did you get it? Justice gestured at Nightingale. She has it. Nightingale smiled, reached into her shirt and pulled out the white stone which hung from a strap. Right here. Zephyr relaxed. That makes 2. He pulled a chain from his pocket and dangled another piece. We're one step closer to finally completing it, thanks to all of you. After everything that's happened here, though, we still have no idea what Sharon is after the damn Pontifex. But so long as we have it, and he doesn't. and Midarans can sleep safer at night. Sharon, or Rook asked. I thought some council of abhorrence wanted it. Zephyr turned to him, then back to Justice. The girl shrugged, acknowledging that she had told them something about the council of abhorrence. He's a member of the council, Zephyr said flatly. We've been trying to discover what the Pontifex could be used for, but it's all rumors and mythology. They're so rare that no one seems to know what they are anymore. Oh, right. Justice perked up visibly. I think I know what it does. This got Nightingale's attention. She found her drowsiness briefly faded, and she sat up. You know what the Pontifex does? Yeah, Justice smiled. It was the first real smile Nightingale had seen since they'd fought Alana. We found a book down in the library. The language was vague, but it was clear about being able to seal and unseal, like a skeleton key, but for espers. I'm not sure there's any creature it couldn't bind or release. Zephyr looked up with a solemn expression. That is useful information, Justice. It confirms what we feared. Nightingale expected him to offer more insight, but he didn't. After a moment, Zephyr rose abruptly and turned away from them. I'm going to get some rest. I suggest that each of you do the same. There are plenty of empty tents. Our fallen friends will not be needing them. After Zephyr left, Nightingale wandered through the empty ring of the tents until she spotted Remy's face poking out from one. It was sweltering warm inside, but she was too tired to care. Remy was already in bed, her armor and weapons piled beside the cot, though she rested atop the bedroll instead of inside it. Gage was curled up beside her pillow. He opened one eye to watch Nightingale as she came in, then closed it again when he recognized her. Remy looked worse than anyone else in the group. Thick bandages and immobilizing splints were wrapped around a leg and one of her wings. Damn! Nightingale shrugged off her pack, dropping it beside the other empty cot. I was wondering why you didn't come to talk to Zephyr. Yeah, I got busted up pretty bad. Remy ran one hand down Gage's back. Cat purred contently, otherwise unmoving. But these Anointed guys have a bone-mending treatment stocked away, so guess who's gonna be feeling great tomorrow? She forced a smile. Yeah. Nightingale flopped sideways onto the cot, letting the bedroll swallow her. All injured party members are no longer injured. So, Remy's no longer injured, so we can use her again if we wish. Alright, Nightingale woke the next morning to Remy's groans. She sat up slowly and looked over to where Remy still lay. Everything okay? Don't know. Remy sat up and stretched, testing her wing and leg. I think that potion gave me nightmares. I suppose to heal the bones. It was supposed to heal the bones, not make me dream about them. Did it hurt? Nightingale was genuinely curious. Remy looked much better in such a short amount of time, and it amazed her. Yes, but so far, she flexed, body tensing as her wing opened and closed. Not broken anymore, but damn if healing isn't hard work, because I'm starving. Come on, let's get some breakfast. Nightingale followed Remy, who continued complaining about the night before, to the campfire. Excuse me. Sometimes the curse is worse than the injury, Zephyr said from behind them, startling them both. I'm surprised you wouldn't be more accustomed to painful treatments. You made your way to Gehenna. Whoever you are, you must be experienced adventurers, yes? We generally avoid getting the crap kicked out of us, Remy grunted, folding her arms and kicking a nearby rock. Don't need to take the drugs if you always win. How long have you been doing this? Nightingale asked. Feels like forever, Zephyr answered, looking distant. Longer than Alenia has been a nation. In Earth years I couldn't even answer. More than a century. What was important enough to risk coming all the way over here? Rook asked. Rook, you're okay. Nightingale wrapped her arms around his waist in a tight hug. Rook returned it. There was none of the awkwardness he'd shown around her a few weeks ago. He was finally used to being around royalty. More than that, he was finally comfortable being her friend. I'm good enough, he muttered, rubbing at a fresh scar on his arm. But seriously, Zephyr, why even come here? What are you after? I think we should sit down. Zephyr looked at Remy. Mending potions can leave you with a wicked hunger. Let's get you something to eat, then we can talk. It didn't take long before they were all gathered around the campfire with bowls of gruel and hard crackers. To explain anything, you have to understand the reason the Anointed were formed, Zephyr began. It was because of Sharon. He shook his head. is a god. Or he might as well be. Unlike other powerful beings that lurk on this plane, Charon is directly concerned with human affairs. He has the power to destroy entire kingdoms. If you were set loose, it wouldn't matter if the whole demiurge got together to stop him. He'd roll them over them and anyone else who got in the way. If he were set loose, Damocles asked, does that mean he's trapped somehow? Yes, Zephyr tossed a fresh log into the fire. We captured him many years ago, but just because his body's contained doesn't mean he can't influence the world. We learned that he was searching for something called a pontifex, an ancient artifact that was divided into 3 pieces. We could not allow him to assemble those pieces. 3 pieces? We only need 1 more then. Nightingale was practically bouncing in excitement. Maybe the Maluma could be banished sooner than she thought. Zephyr nodded. Unfortunately, we have no idea where it could be. We found the first one tailing the Grim Deacons, and the second came from Justice's book. Maybe he could tell us more. Justice coughed, trying to swallow food too quickly. I'll see. It can be surprisingly helpful when I'm doing what it wants. So why does Charon want the Pontifex pieces assembled? Rook asked. He barely touched his meal. We have you to thank for that answer, Zephyr admitted. You saved Justice and led her to the information we needed. She believes the Pontifex can seal and unseal entities. If that's true, well, I think maybe he's trying to find a way out of his prison. Zephyr leaned forward, his eyes wide. I cannot express how important it is that this not be allowed to happen. If Charon were to escape, he wouldn't just come for his enemies. He could remake the world. Destroying Alinea would only be the beginning. Tens of thousands might die. I can't speculate at the depth of this rage. His rage once freed. Charon no longer possesses a human mind, so comprehending his motives can be difficult. Human mind? Why would... It's time you answered some of my questions, Zephyr said. As much as I appreciate the help, I'm still unsure why you helped Justice escape Hyde. What motive did you have? Uneasiness gripped Nightingale. She sat up a little straighter and tossed her empty bowl onto a nearby camp table. It landed with a thump, leaving her hands free. She rested them flat on her lap, within reach of her weapon if she needed it. Even as she did, she realized how stupid she was being. They'd rescued Zephyr. They weren't in danger around him. Nightingale soon realized what had her on edge. The Maluma appeared in the air beside her, a patch of dense shadow that concealed into a mass about a foot across. It shifted constantly, new orifices and organs bubbling up, only to sink back into the shadow and dissolve again. Nightingale did not hear Zephyr's words, nor did she hear Rook's response. She was far too focused on the Maluma, judging by the lack of reaction. She guessed no one else could see it. He's going to kill you. The Maluma's voice was no longer a whisper in her mind, but simple speech. Nightingale shook her head. It darted in front of her, catching her eyes with its own. She couldn't look away. The moment Zephyr discovers we are linked, he will stop at nothing to pry me out of your body. Listen closely to his entreaties about the dangers to Middara and the greater good. He'll use that same reasoning to see you butchered if it means an end to me. The Maluma bubbled and frothed in the air in front of her, steaming away like oil on a hot pan. Nothing was left but a haunting, sickening feeling in Nightingale's stomach. Justice said you could help us with something, Rook was saying. Somehow it seemed that almost no time had passed. She reached to one side, put her hand on Rook's leg, and loudly cleared her throat. It's not that important, she said a little too enthusiastically. When Justice explained what was going on, we knew we had to help, and now that you've explained the threat of Charon, my problem can wait. The royal family should be doing more to protect our citizens. Zephyr choked back a laugh. Really? Those aristocrat arsons don't think about anyone but themselves. 3 times I've petitioned King Balthazar for assistance, and 3 times I've been denied. What makes you think he'd give a damn now? I'm his daughter, Nightingale said, sitting up as straight as she could. And I'm not Balthazar. Like you said, Charon escaping could mean the end of Alinea. After what I've seen, I think there might be some truth to Charon's threat against... She paused, lifting her slender finger in the air with a grin. My kingdom. Zephyr opened his mouth to respond, but a shout from the other end of the camp interrupted him. He rose and set down his plate. If you'll excuse me, he bowed slightly to her, the gesture a little forced. Princess. He hurried off between the tents, leaving them alone. Rook waited until Zephyr was out of earshot to speak, meeting Nightingale's eyes with a confused look. What was that about? Isn't he the one Justice said could help you? Nightingale shook her head vigorously. We can't tell him. The Maluma said he'll try to kill me. The parasite you came to remove says the only thing says the one we think we can get out wants to hurt you, Damocles said flatly. You listen to it. Okay, it sounds stupid when you put it like that. Nightingale got up and frowned at the ground. It doesn't hurt to be careful, right? The least we can do is talk to Justice about it first. We barely even know these Anointed guys. We know that you saved their lives, Rook pointed out, rising as well. You think they'd turn on you after that? Nightingale didn't answer. She found Justice near the back of the camp. Zeke had a guitar. Where he'd gotten it, Nightingale could only guess, and he was strumming a few chords. Nightingale recognized them from a popular Earth song, though she'd forgotten the name. You had the time to play? Justice perched on a rock nearby, watching closely. All the adventuring you're doing. You didn't forget. That's amazing. Nightingale wasn't sure what lie Zeke had told her, but it was apparently more convincing than his last one. Hey, Nightingale pulled over a nearby stool that sat beside Justice. Oh, Zeke jerked wide in his eyes as he saw her. He stopped playing. Good to see you okay. Good to see you're okay, Knight. Don't stop on my account, she said. Actually, maybe play a little louder. Yeah, okay. He played it inexpertly, having to glance down and check the positioning of his hands every now and then. Behind Nightingale, Damocles and Rook settled close enough to listen while still watching the camp for eavesdroppers. Nightingale lowered her voice to a whisper and leaned toward Justice. Can I ask you a few questions? She nodded, clearly bewildered. If I tell Zephyr about the Maluma... Oh, sorry, she's asking. If I was telling Zephyr about the Maluma, is he going to freak out? She asked. The Maluma said Zephyr will try to kill me as soon as he learns about it. Tell me it's lying to me. Just as pale, she finally looked away from Zeke and the guitar. Well, it wouldn't be the first time he killed someone. Killed someone with a parasite like that. This Maluma is one of Charon's personal espers, and it's probably trying to set its master free. There's nobody Zephyr hates more in the world than Charon. Justice took a deep breath, looking at Nightingale with worried eyes. I'm sure we can convince him if we approach it right. The last time the Maluma's host was working with it willingly. Of course, Zephyr had to kill him. He was a bad guy. You're fighting it. We just have to be careful about how we tell Zephyr, and you'll be fine. Are you serious? Nightingale asked, probably a little too loudly. You've known all that, and you only mentioned it now? It would have been real great to know I was infested by the evil servant of a god, I guess. Hey, thanks for getting me out of jail. Here's what's really going on. Any time would have been good. Justice put her knees together and tried to make herself look even smaller. I needed to escape. I didn't know who you were, and you had no reason to trust me. Your help arrived exactly when I needed it most. Zephyr sounds much less cooperative than you suggested, Rook muttered. Another lie, Nightingale said. Maybe the Maluma is telling the truth. It wasn't a lie, Justice insisted. Zephyr will help. It just might take a little more convincing. Zeke tapped on the side of the guitar with one hand to get their attention. He was still strumming, though he was no longer playing anything specific, just a random progression of chords with only a vague musical suggestion. Justice, did you already tell Zephyr that Nightingale had the Maluma? No, Justice said, eyeing the Pontifex piece around Nightingale's neck. I was going to do it tonight, but if I'm the one to do it, I can make your case. You won't be in danger. We'll both die, the Maluma whispered. Zephyr will rip you apart to get to me. You'll see. If you think that's the best way, Nightingale finally said. Does the party have the story flag Book of Gehenna? Yes, we do. But I'll go ahead and show it. That was we got that during the story thing. Was it One Girl, Two Books? So New Revelation 297, which is right here. I do, Justice said, looking sheepish. Look, Knight, I need you to trust me. I've been looking through this book, the one we found down in the library of Gehenna. Justice sat and pulled out the book she'd been keeping slung under one shoulder. The book draped over her thin thighs, its size dwarfing even the Book of Theodosia. Nightingale could only imagine how she could lift something so heavy-looking. What did you find? Nightingale asked. Behind her, Zeke had stopped playing his guitar and leaned in to see. A cursory raid confirmed what I suspected, Justice said. Theodosian was widely used by the outsiders of Arkala, or from Arkala. They wrote all about their magic in here. Given enough time to read it, I really think I could figure out how to kill the Maluma. It's got to be in here somewhere. Justice has learned more about Theodosia. Reveal small hidden card, UM34, and Justice gains the Portent of Brutality story discipline. So, Nightingale's not the only person that gets unique disciplines. Of course, this one is locked behind succeeding, essentially. A lot of Nightingales tends to be locked behind giving into the Maluma. Portent of Brutality. It's a story Theodosian discipline. Once per encounter, you instantly end your turn, and then move your initiative card to the back of the initiative track. Continue the round as though you have not taken your turn. This is actually really, really powerful for a number of reasons. It essentially allows you to double act in the same turn, which can be good for timing. It's also good because it can allow you to trigger certain things multiple times, such as healing. And yeah, just overall, it's a really, really good ability. And then we go to Return of the Gatekeeper. I think Justice was interrupted by Remy as she made her way over. Hey, Knight. She pointed off into the distance. One of those gatekeepers is heading our way. I think she looks friendly. She didn't try to kill me anyway. Nightingale hopped to her feet and followed Remy's gaze. Sure enough, she saw the outline of a gatekeeper, her body covered with uneven scraps of salvaged cloth. Hey, that's Lakshmi. She wanted to sell us stuff earlier. Nightingale jogged out from between the tents, leaving her weapon sheath. Lakshmi, you're still here? For now. The gatekeeper stopped in front of her. Nightingale's friends came running to catch up. Rook in particular moved as quickly as he could, so Nightingale wouldn't get too far from the camp. I have acquired some items of interest since our last meeting. Perhaps some of you wish to trade again. Lakshmi pulled a key from her back and nodded at them. Story round 298, Gehenna Cab. My god, I'm glad I'm finally back to this. Alright, so a few things to note. There's a side quest called The Lonely Girl that requires Last of the Coterie flag. We do not have that flag, so we cannot do it. Obviously, there are no other bounties, but we do have some other side quests. We have My Collection is Huge and Lakshmi the Gatekeeper. I think My Collection is Huge is... I believe that one is the... what's it called? Abraxas Battle Dice. So we'll attempt it just for posterity, but I actually have issues with the card in question that we have to go up against. I even mentioned it in the Discord, though I never got a reply. Well, I got a reply, and they said they were going to look into it and never heard from it again. Anyway, the shop and train, all uncommon items. There's an uncommon unique item, but all of them have already been revealed at this point, so we don't get any. And then the same stuff down here as before, which I'm not going to bother with because I think all of them have been revealed as well. So, finally, we can do shopping. We can do stuff. We can learn new skills. So a few things, of course, of note. Sickle Charm. We got this belt here. Septum Ring is not bad. So a few things I was kind of interested in, possibly changing up, involve Justice, is switching her over to the Chain Grimoire of Perdition, which of course means I would have to, revamp some things. The tomes are really, really good as far as if you want to be someone that does a lot of DPS, because you can essentially flip a tome to recast a spell again. And also the Chain Grimoire of Perdition is a gray die, which is better than a green. But I'm not exactly. Well, the big issue, of course, is I'm going to have to redo the upgrades, essentially. But if I have the Chain Grimoire of Perdition, I could do things like take this wand, for example, and use it. And this wand is awesome because it allows you to roll additional dice that make your spellcasting a bit easier to work with. We, of course, got the Dreamcatcher here, which I'm probably going to trade that in. We got some things here. I believe we have a Poppet. Yeah, the Poppet's really good. The Poppet, I think I really want Rook to have, because then that will ensure that I can at least apply poison to something. We do have the Hook to Vine as well, which I kind of want to keep because being able to just pass a jump check can be kind of useful. But yeah, there's some good options. Replace Hemlock and Sear with probably the Poppet. Or maybe do something like this for now. So we got some options. Let's go ahead and drag out all of this stuff while we're at it. We don't need intervention anymore. So as you can see, we definitely have a lot of options. We now have a spare cloak that we can mess around with as well. So yeah, we got some things to play around with. Obviously, I've been messing around with the Bad Man's Book of Baddies. To be honest, I think I want to switch the Bad Man's Book of Baddies to somebody else. I don't think it's okay on. It's honestly okay on Justice, because she essentially has her attack dice and a casting die. But I also can give it to Damocles, and Damocles doesn't really do much besides sit back usually. So him having the book, I think, is a good change. We'll go ahead and put away the earring. We don't really need it. There's the Grist Crossbow. Okay. So if I do that, that will actually free up some space for her to actually mess around with. So yeah, we can actually put a Poppet on her. And kind of go from there. Hemlock and Sarah, I'm not that worried about, to be honest. But yeah, we have a lot of options. One thing I was definitely considering is buying a Ring of Blood for Justice, so she can actually heal more, because that's kind of a big important thing. Remy, I don't think in particular needs anything. Also, I accidentally put this as a casting die. It should not be that. Alright. I'll just kind of see what my options are. So I've got the Valor's Chalice and all that. So yeah, we got a ton of things to mess around with. The Cloak we'll hold on to, just in case we ever get someone that needs a new character and they need an accessory. But yeah, we got... Oh, also, I forgot... at the end of the last encounter, I should have gotten the items from the utility core. I completely forgot about that. So what we're going to do here is just grab these and then grab some pagers. So, of course, he's going to get back his dynamite. He'll get back his pager. Consumable-wise, we're definitely lacking. we used a lot in the previous fight to make sure we stayed on top. All right. So with this, we have a Poppet that we can take advantage of. The question is what sort of spells, what sort of thing I want to get Justice. There's a few options. She has how much experience? She has 6. So right now she has 1, 2, 3 level 1s. So she has enough to get another level 1 if she wants it. And I guess the question is what do I want to get? If I want to maximize her mobility, I would need to get Familiar. That would be pretty much the last thing she can get that will actually increase her movement. Yeah, so we can do Familiar, and essentially there's one that gives plus movement. Or I can get Yuxa, which would give me the ability to heal even more. So that actually might be a good pick. Yeah, that might be a good pick. The neat thing about Tatfa is, of course, you can flip to ignore break attacks for a turn. But I think I kind of want to... Yeah, I think I will go Familiar. So originally I was going to go more movement to get her up to 16 movement, but honestly, being able to heal herself more while attacking, I think is the key here. So this is going to cost her 6 experience, because she already has 3 level 1s. and each one increases the cost by 1. So this will cost her 6 experience. But this will get her a familiar. Also, we can get rid of these damages. So I think that's get her Yuxa. And then I will also buy her. I'm going to spend 40 gold to get her a Ring of Blood. So I'll put her at 577. So that kind of gives her this situation. I'm almost okay with not having him lock and Sare. The only reason I would keep it is simply because I have just flip effects and stuff like that. Though I could get her... Yeah, I could drop Hemlock and Sare and get Divine Belt of Buckle Swag. The reason why this is kind of important is she doesn't have any conviction upgrades, and being able to reroll will be kind of nice for her. So I think that might be what I'll go for. And we'll just put Hemlock and Sare away for now. So that leaves her essentially with a Poppet, which is a flip effect, so really I should probably just keep that in the back for now until I need it, and then have this as my situation. So I think that's going to be the trade-off. Alright, as for any other upgrades, there's not really anything else she needs. Like I said, I'm kind of tempted to switch her weapon, but I'll deal with that once I kind of done the rest of the upgrades. Nightingale. Nightingale has 9 experience, which is enough to get a tier 4. We kind of went away from the tier 4s to go and get some utility. There's a few options she can go for in this case, and they're all pretty good. She does attack a lot. The only reason she wasn't attacking super much in the last fight was because of the Alana ability. But she can potentially... she has a couple options. Is if she goes into Subterfuge, she can either go Brutal Slaughter, which is where the third or later attack gets +6, very much like the Twin ability. Or she can go Blot Out the Sun. Blot Out the Sun makes it so you make a ranged attack, and then after resolving it, you roll one of your combat dice to do X damage to the target and everything around it. This does hit allies, though, is the problem. But Brutal Slaughter would pretty much maximize her damage. The only reason I'm hesitant of taking Brutal Slaughter is I tend to usually put it on melee characters that do multi-hits, like Blade Works, False Idol, etc. But Brutal Slaughter is just a good upgrade. Other options she could go for at this point. One thing she could consider doing is their Shame of Otaku, which will give her essentially a free get out of jail free. She could go 3rd tier and get Najitsu. Najitsu would essentially make it so she gets +1 defense, which would make up for the fact that she's using a lower tier core. It also gives her essentially a free dodge, which right now she actually has no free dodges. So that's something that might actually be kind of up her alley. But I guess the real question is do I want more offense or more defense? Just something to think about, I guess. Obviously, by the time you see this video, I've already made my decision. We also got, of course, Zeke. Yeah, pretty much everyone has access to another tier 4 ability if they want one. Even Remy. Remy definitely has her options. I think Seed of Rebirth would actually be really good on Remy, because that will get her a casting upgrade without having to rely on a casting weapon. And then she, of course, can still use spellcasters. She'll have flexibility on her summons. It'll also make it so she can actually cast spells on her own, and with that she could do the Tower Reversed, which I think I've been calling the Tower Revisited, but it's actually Tower Reversed. Felled Afterlife would be interesting, but she can't do it. She can't have that she can't have Enslaved Spirit and her summons active at the same time. She could also go Helping Hands, which would give her more slots to play around with, which would be kind of good. That actually might be the direction. That might actually be the best direction for her, because she already has her slots taken by some pretty decent relics that go well with her summoning kit. So I might go Helping Hands. Get the extra additional consumable and relic. The only person else that would kind of benefit that could even access that ability is Zeke, and Zeke doesn't really need more inventory space, and he doesn't really need relic slots because he's kind of just pure utility. So I think I'm gonna go Helping Hand. I'll just see what else is available. There's the Pessimist. Resonance. There's of course Exalted Summoning, though I never use it. Like the one time I actually had a character grab it, I just never use it, even though it's a once per encounter ability. I mean, they're really good, but I just never. I end up just holding on to it and just never using it. So yeah, I think for Remy, let's get Helping Hands, which is going to cost her 8, I believe. Yep, it'll cost her 8. And then she can yep, she'll go ahead and get that. And then we'll give her the Seed of Rebirth. And I'll give her a green casting die, which will be a lot better than the teal that she's been sporting. So I got that going for us. It's kind of a good... Alright, so that puts her in a good spot. Rook has a kind of multiple directions he can go at this point. Biggest issue is Proof of Divinity is a second tier, which means there's only one card of it. So we're not going to be able to get Courage that way, which is unfortunate. So, I mean, I can use him. I can have him go more support. There's, of course, he has access to tier 4 Sanctus if he really needs it. Inspiration's kind of interesting because it allows him to get a stamina at the end of his turn if he uses all of his stamina. This ability I tend to forget about a lot. The Only Truth is kind of interesting. Increases the amount of intervention tokens you can have, and then you can also do an AoE, give everyone an intervention. And then Dimension Shift is kind of just a spell thing where he can deal magic damage equal to the result of a roll from your combat dice. If this deals damage to half or more of the target's current HP, they are defeated. Then warp to a space they occupied and gain +1 SP. So if it ends up doing an instant... If it succeeds in doing the instant death, it can allow him to do a teleport and get some stamina, and then unexhaust the card. So you could definitely do like a chain blasting thing going. The thing is it would only do, with a green die, he can do anywhere from 4 to 9 damage. So I guess potentially he could do, if he rolls high enough, he can kill someone that has 18 health left. In most cases, it probably won't play like that. So, I don't know. I'm not feeling that. He does have access to Tier 2 Core, which does give him some options. He could get access to something like Paralysis. Other options is he could do Oxygen Siphon and get Disease, which is something we don't really have right now. I can go. I can only go tier 2. And I mean the other option is I can do Forebode. Start getting some rerolls going. There's Sanctuary, which is kind of useful. Right. Okay. Getting Paralysis might not be too bad because it does buy you a turn usually. Blood Toll. When you hit with an attack, gain a vow token. Yeah, I think I'll do Root the Mind. I mean, the other option is I go down and grab something else from here. When you hit with an attack and out, yeah, that's not going to help. It does give courage, but it requires hitting with an attack, and he never hits with attacks. I can remove effects, but I don't need that. Can make himself immune to status, but that's not helpful. When another ally with an SOI would be defeated by an opponent, they are not defeated. Instead, they heal 2 purple, and you are dealt. Yeah, don't want that. When making a dodge, you can roll twice. At any time, another ally with an SOI might dodge. Then push 3 for each space away from. For each space away beyond the adjacent target. Okay, so this is the push ability. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna get paralysis. Get him his status effects. This should be, yeah, it should only cost him 6 experience. Put him at that. All right, Damocles. He's got 9. He could go for a tier 4 core ability, which can help. Where he can do He Watches, which is definitely something he'll eventually get. But there's actually a really interesting core ability that allows him to share, essentially, vow tokens, sort of. Anytime you gain a vow token, another ally with an SOI may also gain a vow token. Anytime an ally is defeated with an SOI, gain a vow token. So I'm going to go ahead and get in secret. So this will allow Damocles to be sort of an additional support where he can give vow tokens out to people. It'll cost him 8 experience. Yep, it'll cost him 8 experience, which is fine. Oop. Putting him at that. And then next, let's see, that leaves Zeke and Nightingale. Zeke has access to tier 3 assemblage and tier 3 Sanctus at this point. So what can he could go Exalted Summoning, to be honest, at this point. Yeah, he could get Exalted Summoning instead. The die rules for Exalted Summoning are, that's based off the opponent's dice. So opponent's dice, based off his damage, damage tokens, requires a black die, and this rolls a purple. That's actually kind of good. Yeah, you know what? We're going to go Exalted Esper. Or Exalted Summoning, sorry. So with this, I can do the low summon as something to do in the very beginning. Roll a black, and I do have fortune telling, so I could fudge this roll and make it 4 books. And essentially with that, I can essentially apply 4 buffs of my choice to everyone with an SOI. So that's actually a really good opening ability. Like, you can literally do something like put up haste on everybody, which would be kind of nice. So with that, that makes it so that's his first tier 3, so that's only 7 experience for him. Okay. As for equipment, he doesn't really need anything besides maybe more throwing weapons, which there are, of course, still more I could go for. But for right now, I think I'm okay with what we have. So that leaves Nightingale. And again, it's a choice between the AoE shot or going Brutal Slaughter. I think I want to go Brutal Slaughter. Honestly, I like using Nightingale a lot. She's a fun character. Blot Out the Sun does stand out though, because it's a purely archer ability. The only like I said, the only bad part is it does hit allies if you based off the positioning. But more often than not, she's able to just get shots off on isolated targets. So it could be useful in the beginning of battles and things like that. Each adjacent figure to the target, ignoring range and line of sight. I don't know. I think I'll go ahead and just bite the bullet and take Brutal Slaughter. So Brutal Slaughter. So every third attack she does, or on the third or more attack, she can activate this. I have confirmed that you can actually roll the attack first before deciding whether or not you want to exhaust this. So that makes it rather good. So that puts that there. All right. So that's 9 experience for her. And with that, that is all the experience taken care of. So all that's left is figuring out what to do with gear. So I think some key things is Sickle Charm and Dreamcatcher I'm definitely going to trade in. So that'll actually get me 2 free upgrades, which I think I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of. Because this staff makes things pretty good. So where's that tome? So yeah, we'll go tome. Sorry about that, Steam Overlay popped up. I don't think it pops up in the video, but it did pop up for me. So this is actually the last 2 Ethereum. So we're going to put Ethereum on the Chain Grimoire of Perdition. And we're going to put it on the Wand of Coiled Fragments. Now, something to note about this thing. We could put that to use, to be honest. Yeah, I think this will just go in the pile for now. I never used the flip effect, and the extra attack is not bad, and the energy token it provides. But other than that, it's not attacking is not something I need to do. Is the problem, and I'd rather devote stamina to just unflipping this card over and over again, which I think is a lot better. Yeah, as long as I have a spellcraft, I can unflip it. Obviously, rolling additional conviction dice. I mean, it's just going to be a purple and a. It's just going to be a purple and a what do you call it? Teal. But that's still, I think, a better upgrade. So this will make it so she has a bit more offense as far as casting. And she's still able to attack at range because she's using a wand. Also, the wand does let her put plank tokens down, which is actually pretty useful. Yeah, so the main thing is just the combo for the wand. Actually, it combos with a... Oh, okay, I actually screwed that up. This only combos with a wand. That's the problem. I thought it comboed with spellcraft. So that's something I made a mistake on in my other group. Okay, so yeah, Wand of Coiled Fragments, that's not an option. I mean, you can use it as a relic. In that case, you can use it with a spellcraft, but that's still not the best situation to be in. So instead of putting Ethereum on the wand, what we can do is we could go Blooming Tome. After resolving, blah, 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 roll a black. If you roll 3 books or more, remove an effect from an ally with an SOI. That's actually not bad at all. So we could spend 90 gold to get her a second tome. That is not a tome. And this will allow her to just spam spells at this point. Yeah, and same thing here. You could spend stamina to unload it. So that's not terrible. The other option is I could go Talisman. While empowering a spell, when you roll 4 black on a black die, deal an opponent with an SOI 6 magic damage. So 1 in 6 chance that you'll just blow something up. The danger, of course, is a skull will wreck you. As long as I have a spellcraft weapon equipped. So yeah, I don't think we need it. I might just bite the bullet here and just take the use the wand, but I have to remember you can't actually use the exhaust effect because it has to be with another wand. So so it could combo. We could make this work by buying another wand. So that's the other option, is we could buy another wand and use it as a relic, and then that will get me the combo. So that's something to note. Of course, the issue, now at this point is I'm running out of space. Yeah, unfortunately, she's not going to be able to get more equipment slots. So you know what? I'm going to drop the Regal Blood. So we'll go back up to 617 because I don't have the space for it. I do have ways of healing now because I have, of course, the Yuxa. So that kind of works out a little bit. And then I can buy this for 90 gold. So that'll put us at 527, like so. All right, and that'll ensure that I at least keep a conviction upgrade that I can reroll. She's got the Arcalon Halo. She's immune to disease and wilt, which really helps her out. So yeah, I think that's a win right there. As for the core, I think I might drop the classy Tabaki, give up the aligning machine, and get the homemade brooch, and then get the wrist crossbow. So we have an aligning machine with us now. Let's see, hold on a second. If the attack misses the target, make an attack against the same target. I'm a little curious about aligning machine. I don't know if they'll stack with sinful privilege. So that'll be something I'll consider. And then as for the Tabaki itself, who could benefit from having haste at all times? Not entirely certain, to be honest. There's definitely so yeah, this gets her conviction upgrade blue. Yeah, this'll pretty much solidify Nightingale. It's either that or I can give up 2 movements on Justice and really maximize her capabilities, which is tempting. It's actually really tempting to do, but I think I'm going to hold off on it. Alright, in any case, I did trade in these for the upgrades, so we'll do that. Do that. I never really used the Pontifex, to be honest. So we might put that in the stash for now. And then that'll leave him space to go ahead and use Puff Brand, Classy Tabaki. And I'll keep her with Hemlock and Sarah. Justice will no longer have Hemlock and Sarah, which is completely fine. She has enough mobility to make up for it. So I think this is a good place. This will make it so Rook is always hasted, and I don't need to worry about him. I mean, the only other person I would think is probably really good for haste is actually Zeke, to be honest. You know what? Let's increase his drug consumption here. There you go. There you go, and he can keep the Pontifex. Any other relics that are worth noting? I'm going to drop the fight drive and take earrings. So that'll increase his conviction overall, give him a reroll if he ever needs it. And now he has haste, which is really good for him since he's the one that's going to be buffing everybody. So I think that's a good build. Alright, I think that's it. I do need to set up the active group. But like I said, I'm going to look up a lining machine to see how that works with something like Sinful Privilege or using something that increased your range. I always treated it as the new attack had to still maintain didn't maintain the buff of like increased range, so it just ends up being wasted. But I'll have to ask about that. In any case, I think we're in a good place. Sorry for taking so long. This was a long-needed upgrade. We do have a lot of gold laying around, which I can use to kind of maybe get some more items that we desperately need. But for now, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. I am The Depressed Dior. This was Middara on Tabletop Simulator. I'll see you guys next time.